Hello, thanks for checking out this video. My name is Zach. This channel is mostly science fiction fantasy reviews, but once a week I review my other forms of media that I've been consuming, mostly movies, TV, and yes, an update on what I'm reading, usually in the sci-fi fantasy genre. So, what am I up to this week? What did we watch this past weekend when we consume our movies and entertainment? So, to start things off this weekend, we had a bit of a throwback. My son is studying this in high school. So, we rewatched the original Jurassic Park from 1993. So yeah, this is a book. Yes, based on a book. I actually did read the book way back in the day, Jurassic Park, because yes, back in the 90s, the movie was super hype. It was everywhere. I remember seeing the original Jurassic Park in theaters, read the book before the movie came out because it was just getting so much hype back then in the 90s. I was like 10, 11 when it was coming out in book form and the movie. And yeah, my son just wanted to watch because he's studying dinosaurs in that era. So we rewatched it. And yes, of course, it still holds up. The movie is still good. The CGI, even in the most recent remastered version, you can sort of tell that some scenes that the dinosaurs are computer generated, but a lot of the other scenes have so many practical effects and just the acting. It's great. It's seamless. It's still timeless. Other than, yes, a few times that the CGI was noticeable, but all in all, like 95% of the movie, you couldn't tell that it wasn't shot fairly recently, other than, of course, things like haircuts and mannerisms, things like that are a little bit, age period based in the 90s. You have Dr. Ian Malcolm, of course, iconic characters, so many iconic quotes that life finds a way. But yeah, great time rewatching Jurassic Park. Still 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 movie for me. Lots of nostalgia rewatching that, even now in 2025. But what I really want to talk about is after we watched Jurassic Park on Friday night, we got into some of the big upcoming movies that everyone else seems to be talking about on the internet. And that is, first of all, Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice. This movie, I saw a lot of buzz over the week about it, that everyone's talking about it because, yes, Park Chan-wook is the director of the film and also directed notable films like Old Boy and Decision to Leave and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. So these are those iconic Korean cinema films. I remember when Old Boy first came out, just mind blowing when I first saw it. I think it was one of my first introductions to Korean cinema. Lots of violence, lots of twist endings that make you really think about humanity as a whole. And then most recently, I did watch Decision to Leave, his most recent film before this one, which also coincidentally deals with kind of a murder as a subplot, but it was more of an interpersonal relationship story, but still kind of had that twists and turns that Wook is known for. But yes, this new one, 2025's No Other Choice, is, I guess you'd call it, a black comedy. It's a commentary on modern society and specifically modern corporate culture. So the basic plot, if you haven't heard of No Other Choice yet, it's about a manager at a paper company who gets laid off. And then as he's searching for work after post layoff, he gets laid off because of Americans that are taking over the paper company that he works for, that he'd been working for years. He has a happy life with a family and kids, but after he gets laid off, he just has no luck getting an interview, doesn't do well. So he looks at his competition of, if an opening came up in the region, in this paper company region, who would his competition be? And he kind of stack ranks all of the other possible candidates that he knows in the paper industry. And his great idea is he's going to eliminate the competition, literally murder the other, more qualified candidates that are above him in his own stack ranking system. And he does this through sort of a, black comedy of errors at times. Some of it's creative, some of it's, it's a bumbling black comedy. I don't want to spoil too much, but it was a very well shot movie. The cinematography on this was just amazing. Every shot, just from the beginning, when you're introduced to the world of our main character, it's very idealistic, great, cinematography of like leaves falling in this fall tones. And then we're given these shots just with camera angles and this framing. if you're a visual person like myself, you'll really enjoy the cinematography and the whole production value in this work. It is, yeah, really top tier. And then the storytelling, it's very relevant to 2025 when the whole world is dealing with kind of upheaval. I think feel like the world is in a depression at the moment, recession, just with everything going on with tariffs, with trade, with AI coming. And there is commentary on that corporate takeover and AI automation, which becomes one of the plot points later as well. So there's a lot of things that Park Chan-wook is, talking about and commenting on with this film. I think it's going to be a contender probably on a lot of lists for best foreign film of the year. It was a very thought-provoking and artsy art house kind of film. So highly, highly recommend Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice. I really enjoyed it from multiple angles, from story to production to design. Overall, a really great watch. And lastly, and just one more point in my notes when I was talking about this, another film that's also in this, social commentary that I want to see, but it's related sort of to this is Begonia, which is a new film it's actually a remake of a Korean film that I watched way back in the day in college, Save the Green Planet. So it seems that this topic of art and art, aka movies, commenting on the current corporate culture is the theme this year. You also had, of course, the one I watched last week in last week's video, One Battle After Another, which is kind of a commentary as well about revolution in the times that we live in, the kind of corporate power structure. I guess you could say you could frame some of the factions in that movie that way. But then Begonia, which I do want to see, is a remake of Save the Green Planet. And the the premise of Save the Green Planet was they kidnapped this corporate CEO because they think he's an alien. So I think that's again this corporate culture commentary. The fact that it's getting remade in America, this classic, South Korean film. So lots of that happening right now towards the end of 2025 as we head into 26. But then the last movie that we only watched 3 full movies this weekend, and that was Under Ninja out of Japan, 2025. This is a remake not remake, but a live action adaptation of a manga. And I think there's an anime as well. So it was pretty funny. It was actually really well done. Sometimes these manga adaptations either try too hard or don't really land, but it kind of leaned into the anime manga style. There's some, like wire movements where the characters move unnaturally like they would in a manga. There's some funny also, not just the movements, but the comedic elements of the characters. It just made for a really good time. It's lighthearted. It doesn't take itself too seriously at all. I mean, one of the plot points is the ninjas control a laser in space, and the laser can pinpoint and attack their enemies. So it's got a lot of crazy stuff. It's got a slapstick humor in that anime style. Like one of the female side characters, she slaps her face trying to get boogers off her face. It's funny. It's hilarious. It sounds weird, but it's one of those kind of anime exaggerated things. But it's in live action, so it was just a really good time. Great way to kind of unwind this weekend. So really enjoyed. Also, Under Ninja 2025. So yeah, 3 really good movies this weekend. And now to move into the next section to kind of wrap up my media consumption is TV. Yeah, I think the only thing we're watching at the moment that's like in the consciousness is Pluribus. So we're on episode 4. My current take is I feel it's getting a bit slow because this this week's episode I guess it did reveal a few things as she kind of learns more about what the hive mind is capable of and how they communicate and how they operate. But I just want to kind of unveil more and more of the larger mystery. And so we did get some drips, but it's moving at a rather slow pace, which I guess is a Breaking Bad kind of pacing. But for me, it's still interesting, but I wish we kind of got not really as a action, but more plot development. So that's the TV angle. And then to wrap things up in what I'm currently reading. So I've been reading Malazan book 3, Memories of Ice. And that's what I was talking about last week on this segment, that I'm 70% done with Malazan. But like usual, I had a library hold come up, so I had to pause my Malazan reading, which is I'm listening through Audible, and I finished up Nemesis Games, Book 5 of The Expanse. So Nemesis Games was surprisingly really, really good. I really want to do a full review on this channel of it, or at least not a review, but just share my thoughts a little more deeper. But to sum it up, I was surprised that it hit so strongly for me that I really enjoyed it so much, even though, like I was just complaining a bit about in Pluribus, that there wasn't a lot of overall plot development in Nemesis games. The structure followed similar to the last book. We're about the 50% mark of the book. Something happens, so there is an inciting event, and things start coalescing that the group splits off in the first half. An event happens kind of almost in the middle, just like the previous book, book 4. And then once the event happens, the characters slowly meet up back together at the end. But we didn't get a lot of proto-molecule stuff, and proto-molecule had a slight, it's obviously has a plot point. If you've read The Expanse, there is a plot point with the proto-molecule. Of course, they're still using the gates to explore the galaxy, but we really are dealing with interpersonal relationships and the character-driven. We learn a lot about like Naomi's background, Amos and Alex. Everyone kind of gets their own story, a lot of character development, and maybe it's just now this is book 5. I've been with the character so long that I'm really invested in the crew of the Rocinante, and I'm really just enjoyed spending time with them, even if we weren't learning the mysteries of the universe. We were dealing with Fred Johnson and keeping the whole universe together as mankind expands beyond the stars. And the main, I guess, like plot element or, crux of the conflict. It's hard to call it a conflict earlier, but it's just the way that the OPA, the people born in space, don't really have a place in these new worlds that they're discovering because they're born adapted to living in space, whereas the inner planet, people born on Mars or Earth, are used to gravity, so they can live on the surface of these new worlds that are accessible through the gates. So is that really interesting kind of dynamic of sort of oppressed people that we've seen throughout the series? But the plot itself sort of involves the protomolecule, and that's what I've been really drawn to as well, this kind of looming threat of an alien civilization. And of course, at the very, very end, we get the teaser for the next book, which sounds like it's going to deal more with the protomolecule and what's out there beyond the gates, which was a plot point in this book, but we never really saw a lot of it, of what's happening on the other sides of some of these gates. So really excited to keep reading The Expanse, but really had a good time with Nemesis games and absolutely devoured it and read it as fast as I could. So also because the next book to talk about is, yes, I had another library book come hold, and I've been powering through it this weekend on my long bike ride on Saturday. I got my huge chunk of reading in, and I'm about 50% done right now with Lonesome Dove, the classic Western. I started actually, I sampled the previous iteration of the audiobook a couple weeks ago when I've got that hold in the library, and the original narrator is very nasal. He has that, I guess he was a Western actor, so there's a lot of breathing into the mic. He has this raspy voice, and it was very off-putting for me as an audiobook listener to hear the breathing sounds and the deep breaths every inhalation as he pronounced every sentence in the book. So it really pulled me out of the story, and I DNF'd it and returned the audiobook, and I just couldn't do it. But I know that this new version, this 40th anniversary version, was coming out through Audible. I saw it show up in my Audible feed. And yes, thank you, local library. The local library got a copy of the new 40th anniversary version narrated by Will Patton, who has done a ton of audiobooks, so a very experienced audiobook narrator who does an amazing performance. 50% done. Really loving Will Patton's narration. So much better than the original narrator, who I guess was a screen actor, so he has that cowboy persona, cowboy voice, but is not a good audiobook listener. So this new 40th anniversary version, highly recommend it. And as I knew going into it, it's going to have a slow start, and that slow start plus the bad narrator put me off of the first version. But yeah, I think I agree. Once you get to the cattle drive, once you get out of kind of Lonesome Dove, it really takes off. And maybe because, yes, I'm coming straight out the Expanse, which I'm getting endeared to the characters that I just talked about in Nemesis games. really getting drawn into the characters of Lonesome Dove. It's, I guess, the combination of this, the characters themselves and the writing. It just, yeah, really unforgettable characters. Right now, Gus is on his adventure. Call is on his adventure. There's just so much going on. There's a bunch of different plot points happening. It's in the Old West, so I'm not like I really necessarily care per se because it doesn't have that like fantasy world building or sci-fi epic space battle world building. It's just they're on open prairies. They're battling. They're encountering other like bandits. They're fighting the elements. They're not fighting other, fantasy races of dwarves and dragons. And there's epic conflicts with aliens. It just, they got in a rainstorm and they're running low on food. They're having to cook snakes and possums. It's just something about the characters, but really surprisingly enjoying Lonesome Dove. And yeah, 50% done. It's a long book, but powering through because I want to finish it. And I've got so much else to read before the end of the year because this week is Thanksgiving. So while cooking, I guess I'll probably have a bunch of time to listen. That's what I did last year while cooking the feast. I'm the big cook of the family, so I usually listen to audiobooks the whole time. Cutting, prepping, baking, cooking. So gonna get a bunch of reading done. So I hope you yourselves, whoever's watching this, either before or after Thanksgiving, that you have a happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, wherever you are in the world watching this as we head into, at least here in the US, into Thanksgiving this week and then into the rest of the holiday season coming up with Christmas and New Year's. So time to get some end of the year reading done, finish strong. And yeah, my to-do list for just general videos is whittle down my own best of the year, what I enjoyed this year, and looking ahead into 2026, what are my reading goals and what series am I most excited for? So thanks for watching this extended recap of what we watched, what I'm currently reading, and just some general chat and yapping. So my name is Zach. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy New Year's again. Happy Merry Christmas. Talk to you later.